Here we go.
All right, fellas, welcome to the CFM Roundtable. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We have had a ton of technical difficulties, like 20 minutes worth, but it's crazy. We're done. We're going to record this and we'll upload it later. We got to jump right into this. I've taken up 20 minutes of these guys' time. I don't want to waste any more. Let's quickly introduce ourselves. I know we got a couple of new people here. Let's go with Logan, and we'll go all the way across there. Introduce who you are. We got somebody new that just joined us, but we'll get to you last. Logan, introduce who you are. Tell us where you're from.
Yeah, I'm Logan, the main commissioner at Gridiron Gamers, and I just joined Twitter, so you can find us at gridirongamers.ps4. I believe that's the lingo, but I'm new to Twitter, so if that's wrong, you'll find me around there. We have a Daddy's League page. We've been around a long time. I'm just getting used to this social media, this new age of being a commissioner. But we've been around a long time, and I want to welcome the new guys on here as well, so we'll give them more time. If you guys just need to know where I'm at, you can find me.
Logan's always around. Pootie T, tell us who you are.
What's going on? I'm Pootie T. I'm the commissioner of Madden Ballers Club. Been doing that for 6 straight years now, nonstop. And always trying to take in feedback I hear from the guys from my league, from other commissioners, from other people who play CFM, and trying to put it out there and try to get in these people's ear, what needs to be done. So that's just what I'm here for.
And a new golfer in the Grown Folks Society, which is a whole lot of fun. I'm glad Pootie T joined us. I've only got names on the screen, so please forgive me for using just the name that I have on the screen, but tell us what your real name is. Krilly. I don't know who that is. I just got the name on the screen.
That is I. I run the Blindside Dynasty CFM on PS4. I've been around since 2011. Just recently got into the Twitter scene and the media content scene, so we're trying to build up on that as far as that goes. You guys can find us on Twitter at Blindside CFM. Just give us a shout. Got a bunch of different stuff we're going to be dropping here for the next Madden. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, all these guys do really, really amazing stuff. You got to check them out. Andrew, again, I just got names on the screens. I'm sorry about this. Tell us who you really are and what you want to go by and where people can find you.
No doubt. The name is Expert, representing the Dynasty, top PS4 Sim League. You can find us on Twitter at the Dynasty CFM. We're also on YouTube, DML Network. Check us out. Got a lot of content. Just trying to push the envelope in the Dynasty. It's a pleasure being on with such a great group of guys trying to push the CFM community, trying to get it to that same level that MUT is at. Can't wait to get into this. Appreciate y'all having me.
We appreciate you being here. Mike Peters. Don't know which way it should go. Who are you? Tell us about you.
Majesty 95 from PX1 Sports.
It's PX.
You can find us. Yeah, I was working on something on the website, and I joined late, so I didn't get to hook everything up on my PC. But you can find us on px1sports.com. We are actually the number 1 league on PS4. The Dynasty.
Man.
And you can actually find us on Twitter at PX1 Sports. I think this is the second call we've been a part of, and definitely think it's good for the community, and appreciate what you guys are doing. I think the more we all work together and speak as a community, the more things get done.
Yeah, again, we're doing the whole video, nice production, live screen, and technology said, nope, not today. So MDFL, tell us about you. Who are you? What do you want to go by? Where can people find you?
My name is Tom Bishop. I'm out of Seattle, Washington, and I'm the commissioner of Madden Dynasty Football League. You can find us at www.mdflgaming.com. We've been going pretty strong here for about 6 years, and so getting in here and being able to talk to other commissioners and other figureheads in the community, I think is just really good for everyone in the community as a whole.
Yeah, and I am Nate Lejeune. I am the founder, commish of OMFL, which may not be the best league in the world, but it is the longest ever CFM. We are 16 years strong, started 2001 PC days and have went nonstop and since then. And also the founder and creator and content creator for Grown Folks OC. And you can find us on Twitter and everywhere else. But that's enough about us. Let's just jump right into this, guys. Thank you so much again for being here. let's start off with something that is going to be a hot button topic. What is up with all the anger about a lack of news of Madden 18? Maybe we don't have to talk about the anger so much, but man, they have the pitchforks and the fire ready to burn people's houses down. But what's up with all the lack of news? How do you guys feel about it? I know that we got a little video yesterday, which I think is funny that we have 10-minute breakdown videos of a 30-second, gameplay video, but it is what it is. What do you think about all of this lack of news, or even the little video that popped out yesterday?
Well, I know as far as the dynasty, if you look at last year, we had videos already out for Madden 17 back in June, just leading up, going into Madden 17, to where, and it was long videos. You're talking extensive gameplay, changes that they had made. So I think that's one of the biggest things that we kind of expect as a community to start seeing that stuff in June as we head into July and August, especially after EA Play. And then the other thing is that you have now, because Twitter has just blown up so much, you got developers that have promised videos are coming by a certain time, and then that time comes, the community never forgets that. So they're holding people's feet to the fire when, you promise things to us and then you don't deliver on that promise. It kind of was a slap in the face to the community, like, whether we put a video out or not, you're still going to buy our game. So I think that's kind of where the hostility has come from the Madden gamers.
I think that, agree with that. 100% agree with that.
Oh, I was looking to make sure I wasn't on mute. I think I've been thinking about it. I think what actually happened this year, I think they wanted to lead with long shot. That's what they said. Unfortunately, after EA Play, we didn't get anything on long shot, and it kind of like went, I don't know, over a month, almost 2 months with nothing sitting there, and it was kind of, they set the expectation, like the Dynasty said, like usually everything would be out by now, and now nothing is, and then they changed it, and they had to kind of expect that there was going to be some backlash to it. I honestly think that they watched 2K last year, didn't put out anything until late in the cycle, and then did really well, and they thought, well, why don't we do the same thing and see, if that projects our sales numbers. I don't know for a fact that's what they did, but it kind of seems like it. But I don't really agree with the decision. I think it was kind of, like I said, a slap in the face of the community. Especially if you have EA Play, it's kind of pointless if you're not going to really put out anything after it. So, but to some degree, I think they're right that we're going to buy it anyway, and the casual gamer is the one that they're really targeting, and they probably don't care. So I guess the sales numbers, later on in the year will dictate whether it was successful or not.
Johnny over here at the Blind Side. I've come to the assumption that we've all accepted the fact that we're going to buy the game regardless, and that's fine. But you got to like capture your group of guys that are going to buy this game. You know what I'm saying? So like, in a sense, like you want to. How do you release a game and not give your guys that are going to buy the game something to look forward to? You know what I'm saying? As far as like gameplay, dropping gameplay or whatever the case may be, and realistically, like we're all on the same page here. It seems that not much has been dropped yet as to new features. Like I saw the new feature video and it was like a minute long. It was like, so okay, new features for Madden and it's a minute long. Like, so how much did you guys really improve on the game, There
were 3 blogs yesterday. I don't know if everybody saw that.
Yeah. And I think, it's a mixture of different things. You have to look, some people take their anger too far, which is pretty clear to everyone, I think. And it's a combination of things. You think about the past 10 years and all the things that Madden has claimed they're going to do, and then when the game comes out, really doesn't do that much of. So you have a history of that with your game. So you have people already in the mindset of they don't trust you. Okay. Right. I understand what Rex is saying. I don't think he's lying about it. Marketing is a totally different section he has no control over, and they're the ones who are in charge of this. But also, I've not heard anyone who's really came out and said this was a good marketing decision. It's not. It's a terrible marketing decision. But if you actually look back, I think it was Madden 13 It might have been 25. I recall the Game Changers going to EA and talking about stuff that they saw in the game publicly back in like March. So
Right.
it's actually since then they moved it to May, a couple of years ago, 15 and 16, I think we were getting information in May on each year. For 17, it got pushed to the end of May to E3. And now this year they've moved it even farther down. So they keep pushing that timeline back. And again, it's a marketing thing. Like they said, I think PX is right. They saw what 2K has done and does well, but 2K hasn't had that same reputation over the years as Madden has had. So I think that's part of the reason for the extra backlash they've gotten out of that. And I really hope that, and I think a way that they can kind of make that up to the community, and I hope that they do, is last year, if you remember, from like June all the way up to August, they did numerous live streams showing the new stuff. Rex was getting on stream with guys, and like they were showing the things live, showing the gameplay live without any editing or anything like that. I think that could go a long way if they would do that from now until August. So that's kind of my thought on that.
Yeah, I was kind of
into that. I was just going to say, I don't think they can actually stream anything until at least EA Access. If I remember last year, I don't remember when exactly they started streaming, but I don't think they can actually do that based on their agreements. But I could be wrong. But I think that's the way it goes.
Well, even then, if they can, I think it would be good for them to do that, to show off, what they've talked about that they've done, to actually show it to people and say, this is unedited, this is live,
Right.
So I think that could really help. But I mean, I understand people is upset about it because they're used to it being earlier than this, and each year it seems like it gets a little later in the cycle. And when you have a game that has had a bad rap of not producing the quality that it should from a company that has as much money as EA has, people are going to start doubting you if you keep pushing that timeline back to show anything, because they're like, well, have you really improved it like you say? So I can see both sides of it, and I can understand it totally. So we'll just have to see when we get our hands on it.
Let me jump in here real fast. I think the problem is Twitter gives us a false security of importance, and I don't mean that as any disrespect, but we are consumers, and we buy the damn game year after year after year. They don't have any competition, so why would they do better if they don't got competition and we buy it anyways? Their sales are doing well. So I believe Rex when he says, it's a marketing decision, but all those executives don't care about Rex. So they probably don't, some of them don't even play the game. All they care about is numbers. And if we buy the game, and like I said, I think the social media world is kind of giving us this, we see the developers, they have a Twitter. Okay, that doesn't matter as long as we're putting money in their pockets. I mean, that's all they really care about at the end of the day. A large majority of people, especially on the business side of it.
And I
want to jump in on that real quick. The hardcore person that's going to buy the game every year, yes, they know you're going to buy it. And as we saw with CFM this year, sometimes they don't always put a lot into it because they know you're going to buy it. They think they've done enough to keep you buying for another year to buy them some time. But to say that they don't care and that they're just going to do whatever because they don't have competition is completely erroneous. Their sales aren't doing great. I mean, there's still 5 million sales behind where they were at the height of Madden back in the mid-2000s. Yep. And sales are actually a little bit down this year from what I heard directly from a developer. So they're not sitting there saying, oh, hey, we're great. Their target market, though, as we see with Longshot, is different than us. Their target market is the guy that only buys the game every 2 or 3 years, or the new player that maybe, like some of us are. I'm a casual buyer of NBA. I buy it more now than I used to, but I used to only buy it every 3 to 4 years. NBA would be trying to market to get me to buy the game more often. Madden's trying to get that version of me to buy Madden. This guy that's only going to buy it every few years. So to say that, I hear that a lot, and it drives me crazy, and I know people think that, but the fact that they don't have competition does not in any way – it could push creativity, but they're still trying to make sales because they still have, tens of thousands of investors. They still have a board of directors. They still have to turn a profit, and the more games they sell, they accomplish that. It's just they have a different idea of how to reach that market than we think they should, and that leads to a lot of these kind of curious decisions.
And I think that's what
I just like the fact that he used the word erroneous.
Yeah, and I think Mike hits it on the head. If EA wasn't concerned about putting stuff out for us gamers, they wouldn't work so hard to try and fix other things in the game. Longshot would not be coming out if they were just sitting there saying these guys are going to buy the game anyway. We don't have any competition, so we're just going to let the sales be what they are. There's a reason that EA is doing at each step that they've done every single year, whether we agree with them or not. And that's why social media is so big, because it does give us a voice to kind of call out those people. And guys like Rex are so available. What other developers? I play 2K just as well, but I'm not following 2K developers. Rex is so available to us. So I think a lot of that has nothing to do with the CFM community. It's like Mike said, they're trying to find that user that maybe doesn't buy it every single year to boost their sales. So those are the guys they're going to go after. And those guys aren't getting on YouTube every single day trying to find content for Madden 18. That's not what they care about. They're waiting for that big, huge announcement to come out. Longshot's coming. And they're just going to make Longshot even bigger and bigger every single year for that casual gamer. So, like they said, I can see both sides of it. As a CFM player, I'm livid that there's no videos. I'm refreshing YouTube every hour, waiting to see some gameplay. But that's just me as a CFM guy. And I know that's how the Dynasty users are too.
And I think that that's really what's spurning the community right now at the moment, is just that they understand that there's these business models in place, and that what they're trying to do is they're trying to go after these new demographics. Meanwhile, what they've been doing is they've kind of been leaving us diehard fans in the dust. Yeah, me especially. I feel like with there not really being any attention to CFM and instead Longshot, that feels to me like my voice isn't being heard. And even though there's big improvements to gameplay and what have you, I think that the community as a whole is really seeing this. And, everyone's smart enough to figure out, okay, well, why are we being left behind?
Yeah, I think that I understand everybody's frustration. Everybody wants to see information. We want, I think the blogs were awesome. I didn't get to read all of them. I did get to read a couple of them, and just learning, how different all these different game modes are. And so I get the wanting of information, but I think that we could all pretty much agree that I think you're going to attract more bees with honey instead of vinegar. And I just don't get the outright, just rude Twitter rants and cussing people. And these are grown men who have a job, and they're doing their job the best that they can. And so if we want to have a voice as a CFM community, right, then we got to come with way more respect than what some of the things that I've seen on Twitter, which are just outright embarrassing to say that I'm even a part of some of that stuff. So good conversation. Let's keep it rolling. One of the questions that was kind of brought up as we pushed this out on Twitter was about age regression. We know that regression as players get older in this version of Madden left a lot of us pretty unhappy. So I want to talk about that for a few minutes. How would you like to see that work? What are the tweaks that you're hoping happens in Madden 18? Just kind of your overall thoughts about age regression.
I think that it really should be tied into fatigue, injury, and use. Optimally, what I'd like to see is, if you have one of these aged veterans and they're being used to a high extent, then maybe they would see more regression. But if you have a guy, who maybe isn't just being completely overused and being worn down, then he wouldn't see the types of regressions we've seen in Madden. I think that, with Madden 17, when you just see guys losing, 2-3 points off speed just because it seemed to become a bit difficult in our league because, everyone's always chasing speed.
Not only that, but especially when you're running, like some of us, we run 8-9 seasons deep, and you got these veteran guys that are, before you know it, they're like 74 speed at wide receiver. It's like, The regression is outrageous. I honestly think that regression shouldn't start until about 30 years old. Like 27, 28, 26, like that should be like prime, like that should be good, like stopping point, whatever. But like 28, it's just too young. For us guys that delve into it deep, you know what I'm saying? That go 8 seasons, 9 seasons deep. Like we have these players, yeah, they might be, 98 overall, but everybody knows that for the majority, that speed kills in Madden. Like you could have a corner that's like 94 speed, and if he's got the speed, like the rest of this stuff don't really matter.
Right.
Yeah, and I like Tom's point of how he liked the idea of his regression, and the only thing I have about that is, and I'm not saying this to like put down the devs, but I just know they don't get enough funding to do what they need to do.
Right.
I really find that would be hard for them to be able to accomplish something that complicated. So in a short term, and like in between getting to that point, I could see it as a simple basing it on their dev trait. Most of your superstar people like Tom Brady, Steve Smith, guys like that, they last till their late ages, but the average guy who's not really a star in the league normally don't last till they're 35 or 40. So I could see it based off of the dev trait. And even then it could have a randomness, and like every once in a while the guy may be a superstar dev, but he, maybe a year or two sooner than the guy, another superstar, he might start going down. But the one thing that I would hate to see them do is tie it into stats in any sort of way. Because in an online league, anytime you tie anything to stats, you're going to have people chasing stats. And that takes away from the aspect of it. Which is just that just, and as that goes to the whole XP system that I feel like most of us probably dislike. So they can change it, and it just shouldn't be a flat line. Oh, you're 27 years old, you're automatically going to start losing. That like Johnny was saying, for a league that goes 8 to 10 seasons, that's killer. I mean, it's just killer, and it shouldn't be that way. I understand why they did it. Again, like I said, they don't get the resources. They had to do something short.
It is. I'm sorry. I don't mean to interject. I'm sorry. It is, but for the simple fact that you have these players that are 28, and you got guys going through off season. And it's like, okay, I got to re-sign this guy. He's 28. You know what I'm saying? Do you re-sign him, or do you let him walk?
No,
he's 28 years old.
Yeah, a lot in our league.
You let him walk because you don't want to pay him because next season he's going to regress. The season after that, you sign him to a 4-year deal. 4 seasons later, he's regressed so bad that it's not worth the money that you've invested into him.
Yeah, and he's eating your cap up. So that's what we found out. Free agency was we always called it a retirement home, because it was like 28 to 30 who wanted a high max contract because they had a high overall, but they were so slow and had regressed so much in other areas they weren't worth paying. So we had a lot of guys that you should see on a team at 28 and 29 and 30 sitting in free agency, and no one wanted to pick them up because of the cost. So it's just,
I gotta agree with Pooty. I mean the problem with this, Madden, is it's just been so uniform. So you got a guy like Steve Smith, like Julio Jones, that is regressing at the same rate that a Cole Beasley is from the Cowboys. So you just, there's no way for you to build your team strategically. It's all based on how old is the guy. I mean, it gets so in depth within the dynasty that we're looking at guys that you're drafting to see how old they are in the draft.
Right.
Yeah. You don't want to waste a draft pick on a guy that's already 24 coming out of college because he's only going to get one contract with you. So you got guys in our league that are looking at, you got to be 21, 20, 22 coming out of the draft before you even get on our draft board, just because the regression is so aggressive. And it's so aggressive on a straight line. There is no up and down. It doesn't matter if you are a superstar or if you're a slow development. Your speed is going to drop at the same time, whether you're the number 1 receiver or you're the 108th receiver on the list. And that's where I think true CFM communities are having a problem, because there's no balance. And so basically you have guys in your league that look at free agency exactly like they said. I'm not even going to look at free agency at wide receiver. If you're not 25 or below, I'm not even going to look at you, because that's a waste of my time to click on a 28-year-old receiver because I know he's going to have 88 or below speed. So it's just that's the problem that bothers CFM the most is we're looking for that sim-style league that's just like the NFL. It's not all on the same playing field. It fluctuates between different players, and I think that's the biggest thing with regression for us.
And a lot of it has to do with how far you are and you go into your CFM. Like, I had AJ Green. I'm a Bengals fan. I rock with my Bengals every time that we do the league. Okay, so I saw that regression after that first season. I saw that regression. So what do? Put AJ Green on the block because I know he's not going to be on my team for very long. You got to get value for him while you can. You know what I'm saying?
I'm with you with Dez Bryant. I'm a Cowboy to the end. But you know how hard that is to look at your guy like a Dez Bryant and say, man, you're 28 this year. I can't even hold on to you for another year, even though you had a good season at 27, 28. I now have to go get value for you to pick up a less wide receiver, but he also has 95 speed where you're not going to have that kind of speed for me next year. It's the most frustrating thing with me with regression, and I certainly hope it's something that they fixed in the game.
I know they put a little bit of time into it, but I don't know if they put a ton into it. I think Rex said in Sim's interview that they tweaked it a little bit. I think part of the issue with it in CFM is that I think they have data that shows like 27, 28 is when the average NFL player starts to regress, but there's just no barrier in there to differentiate. I think some of it is just us seeing guys like Steve Smith and Tom Brady, and we want like all of our players to play until their 30s, and it's just not realistic. I mean, the average NFL player is like 3.5 years, right? So it's hard for us because we get attached to these guys, and they start regressing. We're like, no, they should still play, when realistically maybe they would in real life. However, I think it was Pooty that said tying it to dev trait would probably be a good idea because you got to allow guys like AJ Green and Julio Jones, Dez Bryant, Tom Brady to last longer in the league, and then you can have guys that are slower normal development regress quicker, and those can be the guys that bring the average down and make it more of the 3.5 year average. So they definitely need to work on it just as an overall, so that I haven't seen the speeds dropping in the 70s. Oh, that was bad last year. This year, it seems like they were more into like the low to mid 80s. I don't know. I mean, we could debate how realistic that is or not, but I definitely think having some separation in skill levels, whether they go by dev trait, which seems the easiest, or they go by ratings thresholds or something, but the stars got to play a little bit longer. The good players got to play longer, but less than them, and then everybody else can kind of fall off as you go.
I think the trait's a good idea, but I think what I've kind of hoped for is that they'd also do it based on position and really look into more of what the regression is going to be if you are a running back compared to a wide receiver or a running back compared to an offensive lineman. All those, they'll change dramatically as an offensive lineman. We see routinely can go play through their mid 30s. The running backs about age 29, you're out of it. So it'd be really nice to see them kind of attack it from that angle.
Yeah, I agree.
Logan, I know you were
real fast.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, I agree. Like, the problem is we don't have balance. There's no consistency. I guess there's consistency in the wrong way. Like, all the players regress the same way. It's always speed, which means your wide receivers and your skill positions get hurt the most when you might have a defensive tackle can play. He's an average player at the start of the CFM, and he's still an average player, but he's playing until he's 34 because he's got great strength or whatever it may be. But a wide receiver who we all know is a superstar is now at 72 speed and is useless. I mean, so I think I do love what the Devs
but he's
have done.
still at 95 overall, but his
exactly
speed is
because of the awareness or what. So I just think the regression has to be based more on position, and the development trait and all that is a great idea. But I think it's just we need to look at it more as position versus position, and then try to. Now I know it's very difficult to do all that, and if there's any dev listening or anyone in the future, listen. I'm not saying I'm a game developer. I know all this stuff is difficult, but as a commissioner, when, like everyone mentioned, when you see a wide receiver in free agency you almost have to pass them up just knowing that speed is going to be so affected. So I think there's got to be a more fair way to go position by position.
I think we need regression sliders like they gave us with XP sliders. That would really solve everybody's problem. We could tune in how we want it.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Especially if they did it by position.
Yeah, I think the two interesting things that have come out of this conversation for me have been tying that regression to the dev trait, but also somebody said the injury rating. Like I think that makes for an interesting conversation. If the player's getting hurt every single season or 2-3 times a season, then maybe they regress quicker than somebody who stays healthy all the time. And so again, I'm not a game developer. I don't know how difficult these things are. We see this big old huge thread that was on Operation Sports or whatever that was really amazing. Whoever created that guy had some super great graphics. But I think at the end of the day, what he detailed out, I'm not a game developer, but I can pretty much assume that that's not even physically, humanly possible to put on a disc somewhere as a game for $59.99. I just, some of this stuff is like, yes, we want realism. Yes, we want that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it is a video game. And if you want, published, then maybe you should go get a job in the NFL and do it that way. Because I don't know, some of these details, I don't know how hard that is, but some of them I think are a little too hard. I think it just goes back to the point for me, instead of all of these completely changing new features, and maybe we'll get to that today, but old features that have been taken away that we'd like to have back. It's like keep the stuff that works and then tweak the stuff that doesn't work and just keep improving the game every year that way.
Right.
Let's move to another subject that was kind of brought up to us, and that's about player editing details. And so a commissioner can go in there and edit, of course, full details in the back, stats and attributes and all of that other stuff, whereas players can only edit, players' look and likeness and equipment and all that stuff. But it was brought up, would we like as commissioners or leaders to see a very detailed report kept maybe in transactions or somewhere where it is very detailed and people can really track exactly what changes are being made? Is that something that you think would be beneficial and something that you'd like to see added to the game?
My
Absolutely.
question is, why would you not?
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you're a commissioner, okay, like, yeah, you have runs over the league, whatever. But, like, I've been in a couple of leagues myself, and I'm a commissioner myself. All of us are commissioners, So I've been in leagues where I've actually caught people editing players' speeds, editing stats, editing traits, editing, with nobody saying anything, but I can see, like, especially if you have a DaddyLeagues, because all you have to do is go in there, and if they haven't updated that DaddyLeagues, you have the previous stats, and you have the stats that's on your TV right now, and you can see exactly what's been edited.
Yeah.
So, and guys are like, oh, well, we went ahead and we live stream our edits. Okay, well, who's to say what you did prior to that? So my question is why would you not support that unless you are supporting it because obviously you're cheating?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's no gray area in that to me. Like, if you're cheating, you're cheating. Like, you have a problem with it because you're cheating.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was my biggest
when
you did put
just
stuff
think it
in
adds
CFM this year.
Go ahead, PX.
All right.
I got to say, this is way more conversation than I expected on this subject.
Well, I mean, I think we all agree with that. I was just going to say, like, that was one of the things, like, I went to Orlando this year, and I was down there, and, they released, like, the features, and that was, like, one of the ones where I'm like, couldn't we have at least got that in? Now, again, I have no idea how hard it was, and maybe something like that's far more complicated than we think. It seems easy. It seems like you just, say, okay, that was done, and you put something in there. Some of the changes show up in there. So it seems easy, but that one thing right there is just like, it would alleviate so many things, and it seems so easy to do. It was like, that was
very
really
easy to do. Very easy to do. It seems
like it. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I just think it adds another layer of accountability, not only to your commissions, but that shows to your whole entire league that we're trying to run an honest league from top to bottom. And I think it's something that they need to fix, not just for the commissioners. I hate the fact that you go on there and it says so-and-so edited a player. Well, what did he edit?
Right.
Even if it's a user. I want to know what he did. Did he change his name? Did he put him some new socks on? There should be something where you can click on that guy and say, okay, this is what he changed. And the same thing should go for a commissioner. Hey, you should click on that and be able to tell, hey, Commissioner X changed wide receiver speed from 77 to 97. And now that's the reason he's undefeated this year. I just think it's something that
it comes down to dishonesty.
So let me ask this. I don't want to cut anybody up, but so I think we all agree that this would be a great addition, because everybody here are really good guys, and that's why I've kind of invited you here. But here is the question that I have, because I'll be completely transparent with you guys. I've never had an issue. Again, our league has been around for a very long time. So the guys, like all of you, you have guys that have been in your league forever. This tends to be an issue for like younger leagues or leagues that people really don't know a whole lot about. So what do you guys do to make sure that you cover yourself? Because honestly, I just go do what I need to do. I don't live stream, and no one has ever, because again, I don't go, I don't win championships. I barely make the playoffs. So nobody is saying I'm out there cheating.
I feel bad, Nate. Me too.
So what do you guys do? Because I don't do anything.
So that's the problem. I don't do anything either. Is the problem is that when you do have a league that's so competitive with 32 guys that are fighting for a Super Bowl, that even your most honest guys that you think are stand-up guys, man, that opportunity to change one or two players that could take you from being that NFC champion to being that Super Bowl champion, man, it's such a risky kind of move to where if there's no check and balances, then you start running into problems. So one of the things, and I know Crilly talked about, just because you live stream your changes, I don't think that'll fix, but I know that's something that we've done in the Dynasty, that anytime a commissioner is changing a player, he has to announce it in our chat. Hey, I'm fixing to go in here. I'm live streaming. I'm fixing to edit this player. We have to see the player before he edits it and then watch him do the edit the whole time, just to give that extra layer that I think EA should have put in the game before we even started, before we opened the package. That should have been a part of the CFM community. So I just think when you have such a competitive league, and I'm not winning Super Bowls either, but I'm fighting my tail off to get to one every single year, and I don't want to lose out on the Super Bowl because some shady guy is changing his fullback to be a top fullback that blocks anything that comes his way, and all of a sudden now he's running back. He's leading the league in running because he's got Bo Jackson playing fullback for him. So I just think that's the accountability we need.
And I 1,000% agree with you guys. I want to come back to. I'm not trying to cut anybody off. I 1,000% agree with you. But also, I guess my question would be, what are we willing to trade off? So if you get this really detailed thing, you're not going to get A, B, and C. What are we willing to trade off? And we don't know these things. We're totally just talking. I guess my point of view was, or is on that subject. Yes, I'd love to have it, but at the end of the day, it's not a make or break thing. Yes, some of it sucks to not be able to tell those details. But I think if a commissioner is going to go do that kind of thing, that league is not going to last. Sooner or later, that league's going to fold because that guy has zero character. He has no longevity. Guys like all of us in here who've been doing this for a very long time, I would never do that. It's not worth 16 years of my reputation that I've been building with my guys. I've known some guys in my league literally for 16 years. I'm not going to risk it. Yes, it would be a nice addition, but it's not make or break. And I cut somebody off. My bad. Go ahead and go.
No. And there is stuff that they can cut out. I don't need to know that the Ravens are changing their uniforms for this week. That has no bearing. I mean, that is not part of my scouting plan that the Ravens are wearing black instead of purple.
All the Ravens are wearing alternate uniforms this week.
That's it. That's I don't care that it pops up on the screen and says the media thinks the Cowboys had a great week in practice in cover 6 and they're going to play an outstanding week in cover 6. Well, I may not run cover 6 the whole game. Why does that matter? Take all of that. I understand it's all, because social media is so big, they want all of that a part of the experience, but you can cut that stuff out for CFM because there isn't a league out there that is looking to see what uniforms the next player is going to put on. Just cut that out and give us a different feature.
Hold on, one more thought, and then we'll move to the last subject.
Well, I just wanted to throw in on there that I think some of us, especially you, Nate, who have been around for so long, kind of forget what it's like when you're first starting out. And the startup leagues have a role because that, especially from a Madden perspective, is if they create a bad experience for a user, there's no guarantee that user is going to come back the next year. And if they join a league and that the commissioner's doing crazy stuff, they may think that every league's like that, and then they're like, I'm not buying this game. I'm not playing it. I'm not having fun playing against a computer, but I don't want to play in a league because commissioners are shady, so I'm just not going to buy the game. So to me, it makes no sense for them not to do that, put all of it in there, make it all transparent, and then that helps every league out there. It helps everybody enjoy it, and the game grows because of it.
I 1,000% agree. I just don't think, again, yes, I think it should be in there. Yes, I want to see it. I'm not counter-arguing that it shouldn't be in there, but I think that just because it's in there, it's not going to stop shady commissioners from doing shady stuff. Like, shady people are going to be shady people no matter what. They're still good. Because at the end of the day, you can still catch these people. You can still look on DaddyLeagues. Like, there's still ways to catch them. I think if a guy joins a really bad league and has a terrible experience, then having a detailed transaction list is not going to stop that, if that makes any sense.
Well, what I think as a whole, anybody playing in leagues, what they really want is they want transparency over anonymity. And if you've built that base and you have that core group in your league and they understand what you're all about and they can actually convey that to your members, then that helps you out a lot. But like you guys had said, with those younger leagues, they don't really have that. And I think that with a lot of younger commissions, they don't understand how much responsibility really falls on you. Me personally, I feel like, holy crap, it's like a full-time job running.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
And then just all the personalities you deal with. And
that's the big part.
It becomes so trying. And I think that if they could give us the tools to just, be able to have guys, look at that and just see that and not have to question, not have to ask, that makes it so much easier for us as commissioners. But it all goes back, I think it all goes back to that Deuce Douglas article with Operation Sports. And what it's doing is just providing layers. And, adding into that, I think that if they could just give us a lot more commissioner controls, it would take the CFM experience to a whole nother level. I mean, like, if I could just have the ability to take away, people using ball hawk feature or whatever feature it is.
That's coming up. That was coming up. That's the topic.
And I think that that's one of the things we see with Rex and which way they're going right now. And we've seen huge improvements year after year from Madden 16 to Madden 17. 18 will be a huge jump, despite how everyone's feeling right now. But one thing that we are seeing as well is just these lines of division between marketing and devs who are trying to be as transparent as they can be. Well, the community is getting this feeling that EA keeps on kicking the can down the road. And we're not getting the features that we feel that we should have. We get features taken out every year. We get a new feature thrown in there. And so it's like, why don't
usually it's an old feature that was already in the game. Usually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, lots of good conversations. Again, I was going to throw this in at the very end, but I can interject. I know some of you guys got to go because our technical difficulties, we went way longer. I do want to go one more subject, and then we'll wrap it up. We're not going to get to all the subjects today, but I do want to keep these going even into Madden 18 because I think it's a unique platform where it's not from a certain league or a certain website. I mean, it's hosted by DaddyLeagues, but it's all of you guys bringing your expertise. I think a great subject for just one show, the only subject, would be what you just mentioned, and that's just talking about like how much work a CFM is for a commissioner and like how do we keep longevity out there? How do we create content? I think that would be a very intriguing podcast to do, maybe even over a couple of podcasts to put out there for new guys who are looking to create their own, league and CFM, like, hey, this is what it takes. And here's from the top guys who've done it. So let's go to our very last. I'm going to skip a bunch, but since you guys just talked about it, let's talk about league-wide settings. I wasn't going to go here. I was going to go somewhere else. But since you guys brought it up, how much control would you like to have to be able to set league-wide settings over such things as ball hawk and heat seeker and all these things where you control what everyone's settings look like? For us in Madden 17, I think one of the bigger things has been like running back assist and having that as individual settings so somebody can have full assist somebody can have full manual. Well, of course, we want full manual, but I have to trust that guys are going in and setting that themselves as a rule instead of being able to control that as a league-wide setting. So let's start with that. How would you guys like to have that? We've got about 10 minutes that I want to go and then wrap this up. I personally don't like, 3 and 4 hour podcasts because I don't have that kind of time to even listen to something like that. I want to give people little bites that they can handle, and then we'll pick up another show in 2 weeks or whatever. So tell me, let's go there.
I'm just going to keep it
settings.
I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I 100% agree with being able to control those settings as far as your GPU assist, user strafe, heat sinker, ball hawk. I believe that we're all in the same game here, which is we run sim leagues, correct?
Yes.
Yep. So that being said, we want to keep it as realistic as we possibly can. And I think that, to me, there's no skill for a guy to go ahead and wait for a quarterback to snap the ball, switch over real quick, hold triangle. There's no skill in that, to me. You know what I'm saying? We base ours in BSD off of user skills. So pretty much I would love to be able to control that. No ball hawk, no guy sitting in the middle of the field, on the playing middle linebacker, holding the triangle button, running around the middle of the field, ball hawking the ball, stuff like that.
Yep.
If you're a user and your skill is on user point, you don't need any of that. You know what I'm saying? We want to base our stuff off user control. To me, there's no skill just sitting there at a position and not even holding the controller really, and just okay, the guy's throwing a deep ball. Let me switch over to circle and hold triangle real quick. Oh, user pick. That's not a user pick to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we would probably all agree that it should be on.
Yeah, I feel like if
have the option.
If it's a setting for us to pick at all, a commissioner should be able to lock it in place. If he doesn't want to lock it in place, then fine, let people choose on their own. But as long as it's a setting for the league, it ought to be commissioner's choice to lock that setting in. It's as simple as that. If it's a setting, give us the option to either lock it or not lock it.
And not even that. Hard to police. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And that's it. It should not even be a user capability to go in there and change that setting. Because what we've done in CFM is we've actually made commissioners no longer commissioners. We've made them administrators. All you can do is advance the league. All you can do is force a sim loss or a sim win, turn the injuries off for the league. But let's take it a step further for the commissions. If we're going to make them true commissioners of the league, I want to be able to let my top commissioner, if somebody violates a rule, he can go in there and sit your quarterback down for a game, or he can take a draft pick away from you. He can do such things that Roger Goodell could do. Hey, I'm going to suspend your player for the next 2 games for a violation of this rule. Or, hey, we caught you cheating, so, hey, we're going to take your 3rd draft pick away. Right now, you basically can only tell a user, this is what you have to do. Send your draft pick here, and that's quarterback down. And that happens in our league. It happens in our league. But what I'm saying is that commissioners right now are just administrators. You're basically only needed at the end of the week when it's time to advance and you have 30 users in the league, in the chat saying advance the league. When commissioners, we've taken that control away from them. And that's lost the experience for the whole league. That would do nothing but benefit the whole league if we actually gave power back to the commissioner for every setting that's in the game.
And I like to
devil's advocate really quick just on what you said was, if we talked about earlier, having everything being transparent because commissioners are shady, if you give them the option to suspend players and take draft picks away, the shady commissioners are going to abuse that. I mean, I'm with you. It's kind of hard to police things, but I think on the flip side, then we just open up another exploit for a shady commissioner that can create a bad experience. Right. So I definitely think other things can be done,
and that's where that transparency has to come in. And that's where when a commission makes a decision, it's known to if Roger Goodell suspends a player in the NFL, everybody in the world knows that Pac-Man Jones just got suspended for a game. It popped up on Madden 17 while I'm playing my game. Oh, Pac-Man got suspended. So that's where that transparency has to correlate, because you're right. If you give a commish total control, if it's a shady commish, he can be shady with whatever feature we give him. But if there's
Right.
transparency in the league, you can't hide the shadiness. It's going to come out, and it's going to come out immediately when it pops up on the screen that says, hey, commissioner suspended running back for 2 games. Everybody in the league's going to go, why did he get suspended? Well,
why?
If he's a true commish, if he's true transparency as a commish, the league already knows before that happens, before it even pops up on the screen. So I think you're right. It's got to go hand in hand, transparency and full control. Before we even give full control, we got to have transparency.
Now, what I've always thought as far as commissioner controls is, I think as the commissioner and with having so much responsibility, the way that I've always wished that it could be is like kind of like a God mode. I mean, really, I'd like to be able to edit everything, edit injuries, suspend players, cut players, edit contracts from any team. Because that would make my job so much easier instead of using holdover accounts on teams when a coach leaves and then having to readjust that team and make sure that it's right and that the roster minimums are up to date and everything's set right. It's such a process for me at this point. And if there was any way that they could take that load and make it a little bit lighter and just give me the ability to edit anything I need just from my profile, man, my weeks would just go so much better.
Now, some interesting things have come out of this conversation. I think that PX, where you were going with that, I kind of had to bite my tongue off because there's so much I wanted to say and ask from all of you and just get your input from. But I think that would make a great podcast just about what's it like to be a CFM commissioner and the different ways we all view things, because we all view things completely different. The question that has come out of this that I want to spend the last couple of minutes on instead of going to another subject that we won't have time to finish. You guys have talked about those controls, suspending players, league-wide settings, taking away draft picks. What else is not there that you would like to see there? And maybe even most important stuff. Like, if I got these top 3 things, that would be really great. And these other things would be lanyard. What are those settings that you're looking to get your hands on that you currently cannot do?
I'd say for me, like right out the gate, we do have the ability to edit contracts, but it's a process. It's really just a pain to adjust it. And if you have a league like mine, which we're not just a sim league, we are a strict sim league. So we really try to play everything as absolutely close to the cuff as we can. So when it comes down to a player's, signing a new contract or whatever, I get in there and I do every one of those contracts, and it takes time. It's so I think that would be like the first thing that jumps out to me right away. And then my second thing, like I said, would have to be the ability to suspend players or cut players off teams. And the third, which would probably fall higher on this list, would be the ability to edit injuries. I think that's big time, especially in the beginning of the league year.
I would go with everything.
Let me go right there real quick. When you say edit into injuries, like they're too long, you want to shorten them. They're too short, you want to lengthen them. Like, what do you mean?
So in our first season, the way we play, we like to follow like the NFL injuries and everything to a T. So when we start our season, right now, we can't really do that. So we kind of have to start from like right when the NFL season goes and then just kind of go into our own universe from that point on. Yep. And, I know a lot of leagues do it differently than that. But to me, I just think that would make things easier just to be able to, let's say it's the beginning of season and Thomas Rawls from the Seattle Seahawks goes out. Well, without me having the ability to edit that injury, he's just there. And I can either have him just take up a roster spot or I can cut him. And so the ability to just like set those injuries, if you wanted to, that'd be really great for me in my life.
I got you. I'm sorry
to
cut you off. I really
pre-existing injuries, though, like when you can set settings off the pre-existing injuries, like when you start the league up, like you're saying, like you said, we'll use Thomas Rawls as an example. He's injured, and you don't. Are you saying you want him to be injured, or you don't want him to be injured?
I'm saying if he got injured after the point when the roster update does not show him having an injury, I'd like to be able to set that injury.
Okay, so
if he gets hurt in real life,
you'd want to run the pre-existing injury setting on.
But if the roster update hasn't already given him the injury, then I'd have to wait for a new roster update where he has the injury. Do you see what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. Okay.
Almost like live
No further
tracking
questions.
injuries. no further questions. Is that what you're saying? Is that you would like to almost have like a live tracking injuries?
Yes. I mean, I know that seems improbable, maybe impractical, but for our league in our first season, at least, like I said, we play it very close to the cuff, and that would make our league, it'd make things a lot easier.
Well, I never even thought about that.
I would like that I saw. It seems like we got to just kind of keep talking. And
No, there's no like pause for anybody to like jump in. Like if it's open, you got to jump in.
Yeah. I paused a couple times. Somebody else keeps going, so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do
There's no like buzzer or nothing.
Let's play some verbal double dutch.
The next one we'll do video, and you guys can just like hold up signs.
The one thing I saw this like in either MLB or NBA a couple years ago, and I know it would completely take away any relevance at this point, but the option to set an advance time and it just automatically do it on its own, like you don't have to get on and manually do it. I think that would be great because sometimes we forget to do it or we get busy, and like you said, like the people are like, hey, how come we have an advance? Like you just set it and it goes. Like because we have a thing like you have to be done at advance. Like we advance at 9 o'clock, you have to be done. If you're still playing, stop. You should have played early.
Yeah.
So if I had the option just to set my advance schedule and it just automatically did it, that would help me a lot. So I mean, in addition to everything else we talked about, I would like that.
But how about in the instance where all your games are played and you need to advance early? Do you stick with your advance schedule or do you advance early?
Well, I think it should give you the option to advance early if you want, but if you haven't advanced, like it would say, say you're on week 1, it says advance to week 2, Tuesday at 9 p.m., and then you can go in there and manually advance to week 2, and then it knows, okay, well, yeah, then it knows that, okay, that's a race, and now you got to set the advance for the next week. I think that would be really cool if they did that.
So let me play devil's advocate on the other side of that. Let's say you have 2 users that are playing their game. It's on the exact time, and they get a disconnect in the third quarter. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things I want to see changed for commissioners is to be able to go in there and reset the game to that exact time. Okay, they're in the third quarter, disconnected. It's 27-20. Let's not make them replay the whole game, hold up the advance for the whole league. But let's let them go back to that exact moment. Who has the ball? What down is it? All of that stuff should be part of a commissioner's control. And that's where, if you don't have those, then that's where advance times can kind of get pushed back because you do have users that are trying to play their game, and then the server acts up on them, and there's no way to go in there and fix that. They have to replay the whole game. At least that's the rule in our league.
We advance every 24 hours, so I tell everybody.
Also, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I tell everybody advance. If you advance every 24 hours or 48 hours, play in the first 24 and use the second 24 as your buffer in case something happens in the game. If you're trying to play, if we advance at 9 and you're trying to play your game at 7:30 and you're rolling the dice that nothing happens, then you just got to kind of come with whatever comes with that.
Yeah, and I understand that's rolling the dice as a user, but at the end of the day, life happens, and most people
should be able to override it.
And that's what I'm saying. That's where if a commissioner had that option to go in there and hey, let's go back to where the disconnect happened, then we kind of cut down some of those problems. But of course, you're still going to have those users that know the advance is at 9 p.m. and at 8:26 they're trying to start their game up. Those are the guys that you're just going to advance on them anyways. But that's one thing I want to see added to commission. And then the other thing is I want to see commissions have the ability to veto a trade. At no point to the
trade committee.
Okay, and trade committee is, and you do have that in leagues. But I still think a lot of that is you have users on that trade committee, and then you start having more shady characters. Maybe not trying to do shady things, but hey, I don't want that guy to get that running back. Yep. He's in my league. He's in my division. I don't want to see that guy twice a year. Whereas
you got to have the right people on your trade committee.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
and that's
5
where it goes.
guys.
We've never had a problem with the trade
approvals.
Okay,
all right, let's do this. I know that everybody's got lots more that they want to say, which I think is a good thing because this gives you a good reason to come back on the show. That's why I don't want to do a 3-hour show where you guys get it all out of your system. And there's no reason for anyone.
Right, fellas?
There's no reason for anyone to ever
absolutely.
come back on, and no reason to anyone to ever watch another show because Lord knows we got it all out in that 6 hours. But let's hold these thoughts. They're good things. I think where PX1 and where this conversation is starting to turn a twist would be kind of that, like, what's it take to run a CFM? I think I think that would make a great podcast for all of us to do because now we're starting to get into the technical things that get away from game development and more into how do you guys actually do A, B, and C? And we're going to do that. Again, I'd love for you guys. I know everybody gets really busy after the game comes out, but maybe once a month after the game is out, we do these for Daddy Leagues and all get together. So real quick, I'm going to give everybody 30 seconds. In that 30 seconds, give me one more thought that you want to wrap up the day with. Tell us where people can find you and tell us where people can find your league. We'll go. I don't know how many of you guys can see this, so I'll call out so we don't all have to talk on top of each other. We'll start with Andrew, and then we'll kind of go from there. Tell us your last closing thought. Where can people find you personally, and then where can they find your league?
You can find Expert at DML_Cowboys. You can find our league at the Dynasty CFM, our YouTube channel, DML Network. Once again, man, I just appreciate being able to jump on with such a great group of guys that have so much passion for this community. We need more of this to build this community up so that way EA does take notice that this is a big group of guys that are buying their game and are excited every time it comes out. So, man, I just appreciate, Nate, you sending the invite out and letting me jump on. Appreciate you guys letting me be a part of it.
Curly, where can people find you? Where can they find your league and your closing thought?
This is Johnny Loud Pockets speaking for Blindside CFM, Blindside Dynasty. Find us on Twitter at Blindside CFM. My closing thought is we need to get everybody together, all of us commissioners and everybody else in the CFM community, and we need to get together and we need to tell the devs what they need to hear, not what they want to hear, and maybe like the right way, but we need to tell them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear.
I thought you were going to say, let's all get together and go burn Rex's house down. I didn't know if I wanted to be a part of that or not.
None of that. I'm not that kind of guy. Like, we all need to put our voice out, but we need to do it the correct way.
100%. Pootie T, tell us about you. Where can people find your league and your closing thought for the day?
All right, well, I'm on Twitter. You can find me there at PHTYT. And again, our league is NBC. You can find us on DaddyLeagues.com /MBC. And really my closing thought is just, first of all, thanks for having us on, Nate. We appreciate you hosting this for us and doing a stand-up job of getting this out. And really, kind of along with Curly's point, I feel like for years, we've been letting the devs know what's going on. And my biggest, quandary I feel like right now is I think that they know what needs to happen and they would like to. The issue comes from the people up top. And I don't know how. I would love for someone to explain to us how to really get to them and let them understand, to try to help them understand. Because at the end of the day, if the suits won't give CFM crew what they need, and they want to send, the director of CFM to go work on live instead of hiring people for live and all these other things, we're not going to get anywhere. So until that happens, I feel like we're kind of stuck in the mud, and we're just going to be a slow, very slow additional process. And I hope that changes. I hope EA will change their mindset on it, but I don't know that they will.
PX1, where can people find you? Where can they find your league and your closing thought for the day?
We're px1sports.com. We do live play-by-play games. We're bringing back our Red Zone channel this year. We got a lot of great content. So if you guys are down for a Hardcore Sim League and looking for some cool extra stuff, that's where you can find us. We're also at PX1 Sports on Twitter. And my closing thought would just be more things like this. And like it's been said, posting things constructively on Twitter. They look at it, they see it. All you can do is really express your views, but it doesn't always mean that they're going to agree with you, because at the end of the day, you're not necessarily the person that they're trying to get to buy the game. So I think we have to have a little bit of understanding in that, we want things, but we're not going to get everything we want, and we got to kind of we got to balance some things out and just really go after the things that we think are hardcore and that we need the most.
And finally, MDFL, tell us where people can find you. Where can they find your league and your closing thought?
Yeah, you can find our league on www.mdflgaming.com or at Twitter at MDFLgaming. My closing thought is, us as a CFM community, we have such a loud voice. We really do. And the fact is I just feel like we haven't come together enough to really make our voice heard. But I think that we can all agree, without franchise mode, Madden would never be where it's at today. Because online gameplay and some of its issues in the past or what have you. So if we can all come together in a constructive manner and keep on like preaching in our leagues, honor and integrity and, going about things as adult men and going about things with the right type of character, we can really push this thing forward. And although I have a lot of hopes for CFM and that, really there is a lot of attention to it by Rex, I think that if we can piggybacking off what a couple of you said, if we can constructively come together and, relay our thoughts and opinions to EA's figureheads, I think that we could really take this thing pretty far here in the next couple of years.
Well, there you have it. Thank you guys all so much for being here. We are a little bit over time, but not too bad. I'm sorry for all of the technical difficulties that we had. I'm Nate. You can find me on my normal Twitter handle is kinda real Nate, but usually that's my personal professional life that I do. I am a pastor and I work nonprofit youth work. So if you want that kind of stuff, you can find me there. But my handle for my community is Grown Folks OC on Twitter, Grown Folks OC on Twitch, Grown Folks Online Community on YouTube, grownfolksoc.com is our website. So you can go check us out. A shameless plug since Pootie T is here. If you're into the golf club too and you're looking for a cool society with just some cool dudes, we do have that. And we also have a WWE 2K league. So if you're into wrestling, we got a cool league for that also. And then, of course, we do the Madden thing and the FIFA thing and a couple other little things out there. So thank you guys so much for being here today, man. I know how hard it is to give up a Saturday. I had to move this away from Friday night because I had a date night with my wife, who is also upset at me because I didn't take her out to breakfast this morning. So I got to get off of this bum faces and take her to lunch and make up for that. It's probably going to cost me an arm and a leg. But thank you guys again for being here today. This will come out a little later this afternoon because I got to go make my wife happy. After that, I'll get this processed and get it out there. We'll get the technical difficulties fixed for next time and hopefully have everybody on video. Thank you again for doing this. Yep. Maybe, again, we do this in another week and a half or so, maybe a little bit quicker since the new Madden's coming out. But I'd love to keep this going even into Madden 18 because I think there's so many really neat conversations that all of you bring with your perspectives and your experience that we can kind of add to the community. So I'd love to keep it going. Thank you guys again. You guys all have a great weekend. Thank you guys for tuning in, listening to us ramble for the last hour. We'll see you. Peace.
Thanks for having us.
Let's get it.
Thanks, Mike.